all of you listening.
Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, sensual movement artist, relationship and sex alchemist, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. It's that day again. It's pleasure day. It's pleasure zone day. Who's excited? I'm excited because we're talking about lasting longer. And it's not just for you penis havers out there. It's for everybody. How do you last longer? Sometimes you can be a vagina haver and you're like not lasting that long either because maybe sex is not the most fun for you. However, we can have fun with this and it can last more than as what is the author's name? The author of he wrote 11 Minutes. Fabulous author. He also wrote The Alchemist. Can't remember his name right now. However, so he wrote 11 Minutes. He who I can't remember his name, and his he talked about in 11 Minutes how most people are satisfied after 11 minutes of sex. So it's not a standard. It's just like a commentary on that, you know, the average person will either reach orgasm, have orgasm, or can be satisfied in 11 minutes. Now, that's fine. However, I like to think that sex can be a heck of a lot more fun than just the 11 minutes of whatever you consider sex to be. And a lot of what people consider sex to be is penetration. So you get your 11 minutes of penetration and that can be your sex. Well, there's a lot more to it, guys. We've got our core play, as the author of She Comes First talks about core play, and I love that term. It's essential. And how do you bring all these essentials into your play and into your sex life? So if you can consider lasting longer to be more than just the penetration part, then we are in for a fun ride. And there are also ways to make the penetration part last longer as well. So we will be talking about all of that. And why do I talk about these things? Why? Because I love talking about pleasure. I love researching I love doing my own research, if you know what I mean. I love researching about pleasure. I love being experiential in my research on pleasure. And for several decades now, since several decades, I think I became highly interested in all things sexuality when I was 12 or 13 and found Sex with Sue in Canada, who was a sex educator, and she had the Sunday Night Sex Show with Sue. She fascinated me, and she was really the one who opened the door to say it's okay to learn and educate yourself about having better sex. And then I went on and I learned more, and then I got interested in the history of sexuality, sociology, took courses in that in university, found it all very fascinating. And it's actually like my go-to when I feel bored about life or I feel like I need like a little boost. The things that keep me interested and keep me going and keep me mentally on track are listening to books about healing, even though some of them are about like healing trauma, and it can sound daunting, but it's amazing for me. And I love also either listening to or reading books on the history of sex, kinky sex, anything to do with even the sociology and psychology around sex. It fascinates me, and I love seeing books that are written that are highly researched, that people have gone in and taken the time to find out the goods. That stuff to me is gold. And so today, why I'm talking to you about lasting longer is because I think this is a common issue that I hear in my practice from clients who either their partner lasts too long, or they don't last long enough, or they're like, they want it over. Like, there's so many scenarios that timing seems to be, and the amount of time seems to be something that people really struggle with. So why I talk about this is because A, I love it. B, I'm a sex and intimacy coach. And as well, I'm a holistic health practitioner. And I have found over the years that when people have come to me for their health, they often have something going on in their relationships and their sex lives. And they are going 99.9% of the time, they go in tandem with each other, but they're often neglected as things that go together, because it's very rare that you're going to have a doctor ask you about your sex life, unless you're maybe over 65 and you're male and they want to give you Viagra. They're probably not going to ask you how your sex life is. I certainly in my life have never been asked by any medical practitioner, how's your sex life? But I will in time. I don't always do it right off the bat when I'm working with people with their holistic health, if that's what they've come to me for. But usually in time, we will find something that relates to that, and that is one of the key core issues of why they're maybe not healing. Sometimes it's traumas from their past, sometimes it's traumas that are going on currently, sometimes it's stresses and other things that need to be resolved in order for their bodies to be happy, so that they can be relaxed and heal and move forward and have happier lives in general. So I bring this to you all here on the Pleasure Zone every week, every Monday at 8 p.m. EST. We go live, and I have been doing this content for over 9.5 years at this time. So with over, I don't know, 500 episodes, 450, something like that, episodes under my belt, I have probably talked about this topic about lasting longer in different ways. So you can go back and listen to some episodes I've recently done on penetration-free sex. That's a really great episode on giving you some tips and tools that you can use for towards your lasting longer experience. So let's look at some of the key things of, I'm sure that I can hear some voices out there going, who cares? Why does it matter? Why does sex even matter? Why don't we just forget about it? So if you have ever in your life felt like you were a sexual person and you enjoyed sex at some point in your life, and then that's gone, yes, your libido can ebb and flow over time, depending on stressors, external, internal things going on. Physiologically, there are things that change. There are lots of different effects on the libido, which we talked about. And I actually spoke with Lizzie Enns on her show called It's Not Fine. About 2 weeks ago, we spoke about nutrition and libido. So you can go and listen to that as well. And what I know is that when people are having really low libido, who have had regular kind of what they would call normal libido prior, no libido can be a sign of some certain things being off in the body. Metabolic things can be off. There can be stresses on the heart. There can be conditions going on that you maybe have overlooked and just thought, it's just my libido. But oftentimes it's not just your libido, and it's not something to be neglected. Just like I've talked about on shows about erections and erectile dysfunction, that erectile dysfunction is not something to just hide and pretend it's not happening, because it can be a sign of heart conditions and many other things. But you can listen to that episode too, because it's an hour long. So why and how we can last longer also can show a certain amount of stamina that the body has health-wise. Is your blood flowing correctly? Do you have, is your body healthy, happy, and maybe not in pain? Because sometimes stamina has to do with pain, has to do with positions, which we talked about on the last episode. Lots of positions for lots of different situations, all different kinds of things that you can do so that you can be more comfortable. I think one of the key things is to know that lasting longer is not about your ego. It's not about marking it on your chart. I don't know if you guys have charts. Maybe you do. Maybe you're keeping graphs. You got your Excel spreadsheet Monday night. 10:30, did it. 37 minutes. Tuesday night, 9 p.m., did it. 7 minutes. Like, I don't know if you're keeping charts, making graphs. I don't know what you guys are doing out there, but if you are, and you're graphing this and you're keeping track of how long you last, then I would hope you're also graphing some other things like food intake, exercise, stress, all of these other things, because they're all going to have a factor. So I know there are people who can tell you that how long the longest sex they ever had was, and they can tell you how long the shortest sex they ever had was. So my question to you guys is, why are you looking at the clocks? I know it seems like a weird question when we're on a show talking about lasting longer, and lasting longer seems to be a concept related to clocks, right? Like, you're looking at the clock. Okay, start, look at the clock. End, look at the clock. Calculate, how long was that? No. If anything, I would encourage you to turn the clocks away. Do not have them visible. Do not have anything that would indicate time going off, like the 5-minute timer, or like your laundry reminding you that you had half an hour left of laundry and that timer's going off. Try and keep the timers out of the way and the clocks out of the way, so that you're not looking at them and trying, for whatever reason your ego needs to like last longer. Get the ego out of the way. So take away the clocks, take away things that will remind you of time. I think if you can, ideally have your own sex cabin, because some people have that. Have your own sex cabin, and then what you do is you close all of the windows and the drapes and everything, so it's the same time all the time. It's kind of like being in Vegas in one of the casinos where you don't know what time it is. It's the same time all day long. That's kind of strangely ideal, because you're not going to gauge how long you've been there, and you want to be in a place that you're going to feel comfortable and present. Presence is so key for lasting longer, because you're actually paying attention to the needs, requirements, and desires of your partner. And when you're present, you're able to communicate and see what their needs and desires are. Although astrologically, we're moving into a time where desires are kind of going to be confused. So who knows where that's going. Anyhow, when we look at why would we last longer, it's not really about ensuring an orgasm. And I know it sounds like it's supposed to be about ensuring an orgasm. It's not about that. Lasting longer, when I'm talking about lasting longer, has to do with having a deeper connection with your partner, more presence, and the ability to communicate throughout your experience. So for some of you, you're like, who wants to talk during sex? I just want her to be quiet. I just want him to be quiet. Okay, that's fine and all. Why is that? Like, if you don't want your partner saying anything, if their voice bothers you, if there's something about them and them talking to you, like, what's the issue? So if they're saying things and it's kind of like sexy, naughty things, and saying things like, will you suck my, and then I'm just not going to say it so that I don't get canceled. Suck on my this and suck on my that. If you can ask for that during sex, it can add a little sexiness to it. So you can ask for things, you can communicate, and it can be really helpful. So one way to make things last longer is, what's my number one thing I talk about, guys? Number one thing is how to make things last longer is communicate about what's going on and what you desire, and have some negotiation before the fact. You might do some negotiation during, and definitely give some positive feedback after, because everybody likes a little pat on the back for you did a good job. All right. So if communication is key, what are you going to communicate about? You can communicate about different things, like, okay, that's great. A little to the left, slow down. You can actually show your partner the rhythm that you like, or the method of stimulation that you like. Show and tell is a great way to slow things down. And even sometimes a great way to speed them up if if your time really is constrained and you've got a certain amount of time, and then sometimes you got to do show and tell for this is what's going to really work, or just do what's going to really work. So don't be shy. Learn how to communicate, because if you can't say what you desire and you can't ask somebody to even slow down, what you doing? We're going to move on from that, though, because I know that you guys know about communicating, because we talk about it all the time. And it is key for asking for a new tempo, to slow down, to ask for what you desire, so that you can have more core play and you can have all of those things that might actually make it more enjoyable and make it slowed down. So we're going to talk more, though. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial break.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we are talking about slowing it down, how to make things last longer in the sack. And I know for a lot of people who are listening, you might be tuning in because the topic annoys you and you're like, oh, I don't even want to know how to slow it down. Sometimes we get like annoyed by topics, so we listen to them anyway. And sometimes we just would like to know more, and we'd actually like to learn, how do you slow things down? How do you enjoy yourself? How do you not have 45 things on your mind or resentments in your head? Or how do you clear all that up? Well, I would say that when you are going through a lot of things and you're maybe mentally stressed, physically stressed, your body's in pain, you really want to pay attention to those things, look after them first. And sex connection, not necessarily penetration always, but sexual connection to your lover, if you really enjoy your lover, can actually be an incredibly healing experience. One of the ways that you can slow down sex is by taking penetration and orgasm off the table. You heard it here. So what does that equal then? If you're not having penetration and you're not having orgasm, what's the point? The point is connection. And that's another one of those C's that I loved. I love C words. So we got communication, consent, and we've got connection. We got a few other C words we talk about too. Curiosity is another one that I like talking about. And curiosity and connection, actually all those four C's are very much related to all the different ways that we can slow down. So connection, let's talk about that for a minute, on how can you use connection to slow down. So right there, just what I did as an example with my voice was the pause. And so I would encourage you guys to take a pause, slow it down. You can go at a really, really fast rhythm if you want, and you can go crazy and you can just like get it on, get it banging, get it hard, get it going. Or you can slow it down. And you can see that the difference, even when I'm talking, it makes a difference. When you listen to somebody who's speaking really fast, your heart rhythm is going to speed up because you're catching up, as if you're they're like running a marathon and you're catching up with them. If you ever want to really know what that feels like, watch the Gilmore Girls. They talk at like quadruple speed, and then you can catch up with them. Talk with a teenager and they'll be like, and you're like, holy moly, slow down. And as you slow down, you know what starts to happen is you become aware. Your interoception really kicks in. Your awareness of your internal signals kicks in. Your proprioception, your sense of what's going on externally starts to kick in. Your awareness of your body in relation to the space, in relation to your partner, starts to kick in. And when it does that, then even sometimes the tiniest action can be one of the sexiest, most pleasurable actions because of the depth of presence and connection. So how do we connect? We connect through voice, vibration. Actually, vibration is really key. So when people are like, I don't like their vibes, I don't even know half the time if people know what they're saying about that, but you got a lot of vibes that happen out of your body. That's a whole other story. So if you can slow down and become the energy that is calm and receptive to your partner, then the more that you can receive, the more you can last. If you think that you have to be the giver extraordinaire and prove yourself sexually that you are some kind of in demand, in command kind of sex demon that can just like get it on, get it going hard, and just try to give the person the fastest orgasm of their life, that is not fun. I mean, some people might enjoy that, but if your target is to learn about slow sex, then it's actually about learning how to give the slowest, most erotic, pleasurable connections that you can create. You can connect with your voice. You can connect with visually with your eyes. You can connect all of your senses by smelling, by listening, by touching, and then all your extraordinary other senses, the 25 other senses that we have. So keeping it really simple, let's work with looking at how do you slow it down? Take a moment to actually look at your partner. I know it's crazy. And I bet there's a lot of you out there listening who you have partners, you've maybe been with them a decade, 2 decades. The question I have for you was, when was the last time you looked in your partner's eyes for 30 seconds? And right now, if you're watching on video, I'm going to stare at all of you, and I dare you to all stare back at me for 30 seconds while I'm talking. If you can just be present with a person, connect with their eyes, and just know that they're there and that in your presence, that they aren't flinching, they aren't afraid, they're here for you, and they're willing to look at you and see you. So if somebody is willing to do that for you, to sit, to look at you, and you're willing to get vulnerable, how do you do that? Let's start with simple breaths. How do you get vulnerable? 5 breaths in. Sorry, count to 5 in, count to 5 out. The perfect breath. So we go, so you can breathe in through your mouth or your nose. It's up to you. So the count of 5, 2, 3, 4, 5 in, and then out. 2, 3, 4, 5 out. And you could do it with your mouth or your nose. Some people will say it matters. To me, it's just about calming yourself down. So get into your perfect breath mode, connect with your breath. Feel your body starting to calm down. Look at your lover and breathe. Now you've been looking at your lover for 30 seconds. Maybe you've been looking at me, and thank you if you're doing that. Connect with your breath. So you're going to breathe in for 5 and out for 5. And this is going to actually help you slow down in sex as well. If you can connect your breath, so you're going to connect your eyes, look at each other, gazing. Gazing's amazing. It can bring such awareness. It can bring such amazing healing too. So gazing, you're going to want to look at one eye, not both, because it can get tricky. If you're trying to look at both, you get a little cross-eyed. So just look at one eye. I tend to look at the left. Again, some people say there's a way, however, do what works for you. Look at the left, look at the right, but I look at the left, just habit. I'm looking at the left of my own eye right now so, as I'm watching the video that I'm recording. So you can look at the eye and you can take those breaths in. 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. So perfect breath, in for 5, out for 5, just gets you breathing. There are other breathing methods with breath holds and stops. They have different purposes. So, but the 5 and 5, it's just going to get you breathing, going to get your body harmonized. And it's going to start to like bring you back to homeostasis. Your body's going to feel nice and calm and connected. And as you look at your partner and you're breathing, we're going to do something else. We're going to connect and slow it down, right? So that breath in for 5, out for 5. When you start to do that, you start to notice, and you might start to notice, I start to notice that I start to calm down. It's like automatic. And as I start to calm down, then some of the stresses leave my body, some of the thoughts leave my body because they don't matter anymore. I'm just breathing. I'm just staring and breathing. Connecting, breathing in and out. Letting my heart relax, letting my body relax. So if you really want to last longer in sex, it's to approach sex from a very relaxed place with no expectations, no conditions, but definitely with consent, clarity, communication, connection. So remembering to breathe in for 5 and out for 5, connect your eyes, and then just for fun, put your hand on in between their breasts, their chest, put it on their chest, and just put your hand there and continue to look, gaze, and continue to breathe. So you might be standing at this point. If you are sitting, then by all means, sit in a way that is comfortable for a while, extended period of time. You might want to add to that so that you're holding your partner from behind while you're breathing, and you have your hand on their chest in between their breastplate, and then you have your hand behind them holding them so that you're kind of sandwiching their body, and they may be doing the same to you. And you're breathing and you're connecting. And when you are breathing, you want to breathe so that you notice that the breath is going into your genitals. Or for some of you, you might want to just direct it to the perineum, which is that spot between your anus and your genitals. So you're going to breathe in. You're going to let that breath go down. There are some more complex, beautiful ways of transmuting the energy and moving the energy. And if you're really into that work, it's really cool work. There's somebody named Mantak Chia, who is a sexual qigong master teacher, world-renowned, beautiful teacher. And I highly encourage you to follow his stuff he's on TikTok, Instagram, all those places. He has books that you can read. He has fabulous resource for learning sexual qigong, where you can do other breath work to transmute that energy. And sexual qigong is an amazing way to also slow down the sex and not have orgasm or climax be the focus. Connection is the focus, to self, and then also to your partner. We're going to head to our next commercial break because it's that time, kids. You're listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, my pleasure seekers. We will be back in just a few minutes.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Interested in masturbating for money, copulating for consciousness, and pleasuring on purpose? 21 Days of Sexual Magicism with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic is an exploration of tools, processes, and actions that you can use to create more for your life, your body, your money inflows, and so much more. Graduated learning for all levels of interest. Learn at your own pace via video classes or join the yearly live class. Take a peek at www.milicajelenic.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we're talking about how to last longer in the sack. You know, for some of you listening, you're like, I want to know the goods on how to make my penis last for 25 hours without Viagra. Well, there are methods, and you can absolutely do training. You can do like the sexual qigong training. You can do energetic training on that. And there are practical trainings you can do as well. If you happen to be the proud owner of a penis, one of the things that you can do is to do strengthening, lengthening exercises. They're not really lengthening, they're about maintaining length. So I've talked about these on the show before. If you aren't watching on video, then hopefully I can do a good description. So what you want to do is some flexing exercises. And what you'll first do is you can put a tissue on your penis when it's erect or semi-erect, and then you want to flex it. Hold for 5-10 seconds. This is also going to help pubococcygeal muscles strengthen, and then relax. Whoop. For those of you watching, the Kleenex fell off. Once you get really good with that, and you've been doing strengthening and lengthening with a tissue on the penis for a few months, and you're doing it daily for a few minutes every day, move forward with a face cloth. I happen to have these things in here because it's funny because I actually do this description a lot. Okay, so then you're going to bring up the face cloth. And I know this might be a little heavier, but, and then you're going to strengthen and lengthen, flexing and relaxing, flexing and relaxing. So you're going to flex, hold, and relax, and then move it on up. Hand towels, move it on up from there. And yes, there are penis owners out there who can lift full on towels with their erections. They have practiced, and they're not 25-year-old dudes either. These are like older dudes that can do this. So absolutely, if you practice, it's also just really health-wise, it's a really great thing to do for it builds your confidence because you're going to have a really strong erection. Also, it's a good indicator so that if you have been doing that a long time, if at some point that you aren't able to do it, then you might want to check into things like there may be some prostate health issues, there may be some other issues going on, heart health issues. So it's a great way to gauge as well certain healthy conditions going on in your body. So having that in mind, yes, strengthening, lengthening is great if you want to last longer. There are those exercises. There are the simplest method called slow down, Charlie, because everybody you're going to have sex with is called Charlie, but no. So slowing down is just like I was saying earlier. I was giving you the example of talking really fast and then talking slow. If you are in the midst of penetration, oral sex, anal sex, anything like that, and you're noticing that like you're starting to speed up, as a partner that's being conscious about the sex, you can actually slow down the rhythm yourself. You can, so one of the ways, if you're determined to slow down the rhythm and your partner is like in their own zone, flying off and just like using you as a jerk off sleeve, then you want to bring the energy back down. One of the ways to do it is grab their butt. And if you can, depending on the position, grab their butt. Or if you're from doggy style, you can always, if you're being penetrated and your partner happens to have testicles, you can hold the testicles. I know that sounds vicious, but it's not. You're just holding lightly and giving a little direction. Sometimes it's not even conscious for the person receiving that direction. Their body will just start to slow down. They'll know to slow down. So holding the bum and then giving direction for the speed can really help. Some people like to give direction of speed. Say, for example, it's during oral sex and they want to give direction for speed. Sometimes they might do direction for speed like on your arm or your head or your shoulders, like some part of your body gets the speed direction going on. So that's one way you can communicate with your partner if you don't want to be using words. Like if you're in a place where you don't want people to hear, you can give speed directions through touch or through different communications. Make sure that your partner knows what these communications are, because if they have an aversion to having their hair touched or certain parts of their body touched, it'll just be like a real turnoff. So helpful to have these things kind of understood, these languages, these quiet sign languages understood before you use them. So yeah, that can be a really good way to direct speed. And slowing down the speed, whichever partner is desiring it to slow down, you can always create that by helping their body move and slowing your body motion down as well. Not to the point of not moving at all so that you're like a rag doll on, that's not the point, but slowing down so that you're showing the speed that you like, and then your partner can match that. So you might like a really slow speed that's just like, for those of you watching video, this is about like this speed to me that's like a really delightful speed. If you're watching my hand, it's like really slow and almost torturously, like, what's the word for it? Tempting. It's like the torture of slowness I find exhilarating. So for some people it's frustrating. So you need to find your speed, what speed works for you. And for some of you, you never in your life, you've never wanted to last longer because lasting long is frustrating. Maybe you've been sexually frustrated way too often, and or had interrupted sex a lot, so you're scared and you just want to get it over with so you don't have interrupted sex. There's a lot of reasons why people will naturally have the inclination to speed up. Oh, the kids are coming home. Oh, this is happening. Oh, the dryer went off. Oh, this is a we only have 10 minutes. So if you are desiring slow sex, make sure that you've put the time aside for that. Make sure that you've actually dedicated time to be with your partner so that you're not rushing, so that you don't create fast sex out of necessity. You don't have your quickies out of necessity. You can have slow sex for the sheer pleasure of it, and you can slow it down. So direction of speed can help, direction of simulation speed as well. So if there's penetration going on and you just want really slow penetration, you can also direct the depth of penetration as well. So if you're feeling like you just want to have a very little bit penetrated, or that you're only penetrating a little bit, then keep the direction of that going. And also the temptation of that, like, even as I'm talking about it, it makes my body so happy. I just love the idea of slow, tempting sex that is like delightful and teasing, and there's so much fun. That's so much fun. So if that's something that feels like really good to you, but you don't know how to ask your partner for it, the first thing to do is create it as a fun, playful thing. How do you feel about trying this thought out? Could we try and have sex the slowest possible? Have the slowest buildup, have the slowest intercourse, have the slowest aftercare session. Like, can we see how long we can actually be together and enjoy each other? Now, there's a fun challenge. I mean, I think we're at a time in the world where we could really slow down and start to enjoy things more, so that we're not, flying off the handle at people, and so that we can also connect on deeper levels and have things be more meaningful. Wouldn't that be lovely? So slowing down for sex is really about you connecting with you first so that you can connect with your partner. Communication, like we talked about, is very key, and being able to ask for what you desire and say slow, and even use the words like, oh, slow down a bit. And connection through touch, through visual connection, through connecting spiritually, through breath connection, through touch connection, all those things. Those are fantastic also additions. And curiosity is another key in being able to slow down your sex. So if you can imagine that one of the things that you could do is turn your whole sexual play into a curiosity wonderland where everything is interesting. Like, if you've never examined your partner's palm, take 5 minutes and look at it. Look at the lines. Not that you're necessarily a palm reader, but look at the lines. Trace the lines with your finger. Just see what that feels like. I know, what a concept. You can, run your finger up and down their fingers and up and down into the creases, tracing their fingers, like kind of like when you're a kid and you trace your hand, but you can do it with your finger and just see what that feels like. You can do all kinds of things that will entice the body to really enjoy. And that's a curiosity, using curiosity, like, oh, what does that feel like? Oh, what does it feel like if you lick that? What does it feel like if you rub your genitals on? Like, we're taking this to the level of pure sheer joy of curiosity. What if you have an ice cube and you rub that up and down, playing with some temperature play, maybe getting out some other textures like I have some really cool metal chain that feels it's cold and it's got a neat texture, and bring out some other textures and play. Have curiosity. That play and that touch that's prior to penetration can add so much value to your connection, your communication, the intensity, even the buildup gets so big that you can have such you don't even necessarily need to have orgasms or climaxes. Your body's just satiated from the pleasure and the joy of curiosity, and you probably will have orgasms and climaxes, but it's not the target. We're going to talk more about how do we slow down the sex. How do you have slow, long-lasting sex? Few really simple tools that are really pragmatic, like just do A, B, and C, will be coming up after this commercial break. You're listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email. info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. Tonight we're talking about taking it slow, making it last longer. How do you last longer in the sack? The big question that I get from a lot of men. It's also the big question that I get from a lot of women on how do I just get them to get off of me? The thing is, if your wife or your partner, your lover wants you to just get off of them, then there's probably a bigger thing to look at. You need to look at, are you actually delivering the love languages? Are you able to connect with each other? Is there something else going on? Are there resentments? Are there deeper things happening? Because when there are, you could try and make sex last for as long as you like, but there's going to be no sense of connection happening. So it's going to feel like very blah. And so in order to have the sex be enjoyable, you need to actually feel connected to your partner. I know there's a lot of you out there doing the Tinder dating and you're just like having sex with strangers. I hope that the world does grow up soon and figures out that this is not the smartest thing to do, especially for health. Emotionally, people are just not mature enough to be doing that stuff. And a lot of it is just a lot of unresolved stuff, like unresolved issues that are coming out with everybody just going off and getting it on for one night, pretending like it doesn't matter, but inside they're, dying. So the idea of having long lasting sex is also for having it be a kind of sex life that you can sustain. So if you're trying to have sex that you had when you were 20 and you're just trying to bang it up hard, just bang it up, bang it in and get in there, getting out of there, that's not going to be the sex that you're having when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, or 90, because your body changes and you also need to learn new methods, and the way to connect with your partner will change as they change. So sex changes as you age, and sex can always be something that can last longer. Why? Because sex is not just penetration, it is the whole scene. So as soon as we understand that sex is not just penetration, you can open up your world. You can invite far more pleasure in. There are some fairly guaranteed techniques on how to have, say, if you're about to ejaculate, if you're a penis owner and you're about to ejaculate, there are some tried true methods. The squeeze method, if you're not familiar with that, that's kind of squeezing the tip of the penis. If you are a vulva owner and you're trying to prolong having orgasm, which doesn't happen a lot for vulva owners, to try and stop the orgasm, unless you're all about withholding and you find and derive a lot of pleasure from withholding orgasm or having your orgasms be withheld from you. You can also prevent yourselves from, you can do that quite easily, from stopping yourself from having an orgasm as well, just by stopping any stimulation. However, if you're anything like me, it doesn't matter if the stimulation stops, because I've been well known to be able to have orgasms just from thought. So, and climax just from thought. And there are studies done. There was a woman in the US, I think she was out of New York, and her brain was studied because she could create orgasms with thought as well. And they found that in her brain, she was able to do it just by visualization and breathing techniques. And they did brain scans on her, and she was having orgasms that were actually even more potent, showing up in the part of the brain for pleasure, than a lot of people who are having physical contact. So one of the ways to make it last longer and stronger is to actually learn different techniques. The tried true method of pulling out, if you're a penis owner, if you're pulling out, pinch the tip. You can also do things like wear C rings. We're going to call it a C ring for now. If you don't know what that is, just DM me and I'll let you know what a C ring is. You can use those. They can kind of help sustain some of the other tried true methods. A lot of people talk about using condoms, which is great if you're not allergic to latex. And I am a fan of definitely use condoms if you're on those Tinder dating apps and you're having sex with everybody under the sun. Use it for your safety. Use it for your safety, and use it so that you're not getting pregnant, not getting babies happening. So those things can help slow down and desensitize. You can get desensitizing creams. You can get desensitizing condoms. And so you can also just slow down, breathe, connect, learn some new techniques, learn things like Tantra, learn things like sexual Qigong, learn some different techniques, connect with your partner, do some exploration of their body that isn't necessarily directly related to their genitals. So go listen to that show that I did on penetration-free sex. Lots of ideas on there on how you can connect and have great, pleasurable times that is sexy times with your partner that doesn't involve penetration. I think taking some things off the table, taking out one of the ways that you can definitely slow down sex is take everything that indicates time out of the space. So if, close the curtains and take away all of the clocks, like take away anything that would indicate time for you so that you're not focused on time, thinking this has to last this long. This long means over 11 minutes is good because, that's what they said in that 11 minutes book. Over this means it's good. Lasting longer has to do with your level of satisfaction. And if you feel satisfied with how long you've been playing with your partner and you feel connected and you feel satiated at the end, then you're good. If you're satiated in 25 minutes, awesome. If you're satiated after 4 hours, Make sure that your partner has that available.
Thank you for listening to The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. The Pleasure Zone returns next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.